Welcome to Flat Earth Debate Live. I'm your host Nathan Oakley, and if you are new to this channel, or you've not done so already, then be sure to subscribe, hit the bell notification icon and join button if you'd like to become a Nathan Oakley 1980 channel member and keep up to date with the Flat Earth Debate. If you would like to support the channel, there is a super chat that runs alongside each of these shows while they are live, and there's also a PayPal, Patreon and crypto link in the info box below the video. Most importantly, if you'd like to join the discussion, simply mute the page you are currently watching, then click the link in the info box below this video to join the panel and express your views on the nature of Earth. If you do join, please don't swear. If you do, you'll be ejected, and if you are, please don't try to rejoin the stream using sock accounts. You'll be warmly welcome back on the next stream. Now we are joined by, let's see if I can get the right button, Brian's Logic, Arwin, the Adam Meakin, Neil, and a whole bunch of people in Gilded, so welcome one and all.
Hello again.
Hello.
Afternoon.
This is not going to be an uncut and after show. This is purely a live stream, so it seems to be having the same issues, although I have hopefully resolved them by cutting the recording. So this is just going to be live, so if you remember, there won't be a live and after show and pre-show, unfortunately, but this should hopefully have resolved the issues. If not, there's a different issue and I'm going to have to figure it out, and there won't be a live show today after me starting with such enthusiasm that there wouldn't be any issues. So chat amongst yourselves. I'm going to check the live stream. If it's going out terribly, this is going to be my cue to give up. See if I can figure it out over this afternoon. Hello,
so Brian.
Nope.
The 2 points in the sky, right? So he's saying that he's not assuming that we're on a ball when I tell him that. I said, you're saying that there's antipodal nonsense going on. He said, no, it's not. I'm not doing that. But he is doing that.
Well, why is he asking you about them then if he's not pre-assuming? Like, globe. I mean, why, if you're not, just to ask, are you pre-assuming a globe? No. Well, why are you asking me about it? You know, why do you want me to explain something? Well, how are you supposed to explain the workings of something you can't get anywhere near, you know nothing about? How are you supposed to explain that? That's completely unreasonable.
So if I can kind of like understand what he's saying is, if the Earth is flat, we would be able to see the whole array of stars.
According to who?
That's what I say. What makes you think that? Maybe they're too far.
What are they? I mean, what are they in the first place? I mean, according to who will we or won't we be able to see whatever? I mean, this is coming from people who want to think that they know what the stars are. I mean, there's a story, a heliocentric story about the stars, and it's very easily debunked. But people believe it, and they want to then ask people like me and you, even if they're our relatives, about what the stars are. It's like, we don't make claims about what the stars are, because we can't validate those claims, and neither can you or anyone else that's telling you stories. So unless you come up, I would tell them, unless they come up with some validation for the story, real validation, then why ask me about the stars? I didn't make claims about them.
Yeah, what I brought up was I brought up the black swan, and I brought up how the horizon is not where it's supposed to be according to your 3959. You want to talk about the stars? I want to talk about this here.
Well, what you could bring up as a very simple thing to them, Neil, something very simple for them would be bring up that a boat at the equator will see Polaris. A mariner, like with a sextant on a boat at the equator, will see Polaris at 0 degrees at the equator. But an airplane flying 6 miles above that boat on the equator will also see Polaris at 0 degrees. You know what I mean? At the same time,
Yeah,
get the 6 miles above.
That's that diagram you had. I should have used that.
Yeah, well, they can't have a globe model. If that's, you see, that's the thing about it. How can the boat, the mariner in the boat and the pilot in the aircraft both see Polaris at 0 when they're at the equator, when the aircraft is 6 miles higher than the boat? You just tell them that and say, now you go off and you figure that out with your maths, how that can happen on anything but a flat plane. And throw that in on anything but a flat plane, because that's a little added extra that you're giving them then to have to deal with. You know, technically you're kind of cheating by saying that, but it doesn't matter. Say, how can you prove that happens on anything but a flat plane? you know, and they won't be able to do it. They'll have to concede that it's not a globe. Because all you're going to be doing is getting asked questions about how come there's two spirals of stars in the sky, and it's like, how are you supposed to answer that? You know, you don't make claims about that. So why?
That's all he brings
why
up all the time. That's all he brings up all the time. And he says, unless you give me an answer for it. So I pretty much ended even talking about it with him. But I'm going to bring up this other thing you said.
Yeah, I mean, people want to give you a hard time. It's like, unless you can give me an answer for this thing, then what you're saying is wrong. It's like, that doesn't disprove what I'm saying at all. You know, it would, unless you start making claims about the stars, which you're not doing, then there's no argument. What that is, Neil, is like, whether it's your brother, your son, or whatever, they just don't want to hear it. So they come up with any reason at all to just push the information away. So they don't want to hear it. So any reason at all is what they need to push the information away. I think if you're at nothing trying to continue to argue with them, you're only going to be at loggerheads with them on that subject, to be honest with
you. Yeah, the funny thing is I went upstairs and I left my other brother, the brother that told me about Flat Earth, was it 6 years ago? I left him down there to talk to my son. And it's like, our arguments are so advanced. He started talking to my son about, well, until you can circumnavigate from north to south, you're not proving anything. I just said, why are you letting him put you back on the ball? You never, that's actually saying, okay, if we're on a sphere, then I should be able to circumnavigate from north to south.
Yeah, well, there's always some nonsense they want to throw at you, as if it's some kind of, as if it somehow is a debunk of something, or, you know, it's just, if they want to ask you about the stars, that means they're not interested in knowing about the Earth they're standing on. Do you know what I mean? They don't want to know about that. They just want to throw anything at you to get you to go away, and that's what they want. There's nothing you can do. Leave them off. Say, okay. You know, you're wasting your energy and having arguments with your family. All for what? If they don't want to hear it, you can't make them hear it.
And he broke the rules, because the rules are no talking about Flat Earth, sphere Earth at the dinner table. He's a wise guy. He knows what he was doing. He had his 2 uncles over, and he was going to push this narrative.
Are you new?
Say that again.
Flatty? Have we seen you before? Hello, anyway. Responsive Latin Gilded. Just so you know, as an audience member, there is now the newer link, because for some reason the old Discord link had got interwoven with the live stream. So if you tried to join in the last, I don't know how long, it's hard to track, but probably a week or so, it had taken you to the wrong place. So at least now we have actually got a link that does actually take you to Gilded, which is my bad, my concentration. I don't know why I've been distracted. Everything's working so beautifully.
Oh boy.
I really don't get it. It worked perfectly last week. This week, no settings changes in terms of what's going on, and it's just all gone to hell. If I try and record and stream at the same time, it doesn't want to work. So I'm just streaming. But there we go. That's life, isn't it? I'll spend maybe an entire week figuring that out.
An entire week?
This is not.
Pardon?
I said an entire week.
I don't know how long it'll take me to figure it out, Neil, but it's annoying. I just want to focus on the show. And instead of that, all I'm thinking about is this stupid hardware that's starting to become a bane of my life, and, you know, slowly destroying and eroding the show I've built up, which is pissing me off royally, because I just can't get it to work the way I want it to. You think you've got everything figured out. You do a whole declaration all week, every day, about how you've got it all figured out, and every day it stops working. It's just becoming really irritating.
Well, I have faith in you. You'll get it sorted out.
All right, hopefully. But in the meantime, it's like now my head's not in the show, because I'm thinking, why the hell did it work perfectly all week? you know, other issues that were hardware related weren't this. But there we go. Now we're talking about hardware and software and how it's not working properly. And I've had to start a second live show with obviously much lower interest, because the first one's going to be the one that gets publicised. The second one will not. So when I'm limited in terms of the amount of people I go out to anyway. But on the other hand, it's like my enthusiasm level has immediately waned to almost zero, like it was all last week, because I've got stress, because I can't get the fucking show to work properly. Excuse my language.
Might as well do
we're gonna go through-
housekeeping.
Yeah, that's what I want to say. Let's go through housekeeping, and I have a little presentation to make that will save the show.
Okay.
Today's show.
Any evidence of a physical geometric sphere-edge horizon, formerly known as the curve of the Earth?
Negative.
No, it's been debunked. Actually, I even had a Glober tell me in my comments this morning that they've known for 200 years that the horizon is not geometric. The Glober. So, and that nobody ever claimed that it was. So that's the answer.
What?
Yeah.
Sorry, come again. Say that one more time.
Yeah, I can even share a screen if you want. A Glober in my chat this morning claimed that they've known for 200 years that the horizon is not a geometric place that you can measure to, and that nobody ever claimed that it was. I think was.
Well, then how'd they get the radius?
Look, Neil, how did boats sail over geometric horizons? You know, it's complete and utter nonsense. But that's where they're at. That's where they're at.
Okay.
So
you
no,
going to present your screen then?
Yeah, I'll go get it now. 1 second.
Tomorrow's another day.
Well, technically, tomorrow's not promised to anybody, so.
I had to go and delist that last show before it tarnishes my reputation even further.
Wasn't Al Baruni measuring to a geometric horizon?
Should be sharing there now.
Yeah, you are.
Okay, I don't know if I can. So, nope, from this guy Curious, nope, the horizon is thought to not have a fixed distance for about 200 years. Your understanding that it's claimed to be a location, sorry, this bloody oak is gone. A location you can go to is incorrect. I meant he must have, maybe he's edited it. He edited it. Yeah, but it's like, nope, the horizon is thought to not have a fixed distance for about 200 years now. Your understanding that it's claimed to be a location you can go to is incorrect. Well, no one claimed that you could go there, but there was a claim that had a geometric, it was a geometric position. But now it's thought to not have a fixed distance for about 200 years. But 2 years ago, well, maybe 3 years ago, 2.5, 3 years ago, there was no end of claims about how the horizon was a fixed geometric location that blocked boats and buildings. But now it's 200 years, they've known for sure that, you know, it's not that. So us flat earth are saying that it is are just stupid. According to them.
Hold on a second. And right before 1st January 2020, it was claimed to be, no?
Yeah, before 1st of January 2020, they were claiming non-stop that the horizon was a geometric location. Non-stop. They wouldn't stop every single thing, every single observation involved a geometric horizon. The Isle of Man days, they were all referring to a geometric horizon. Everything was geometric horizon. Geometric horizon, geometric horizon. Now, when the Black Swan argument came out with the Black Swan photo, that suddenly they all started changing their tune and saying, no one's claiming it's geometric. It's all geometric horizon is only in the maths, blah 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 blah. You know, that's what you'll get. That's what we're dealing with.
So once something is debunked, then they go back and say, no. For 200 years, we were saying the opposite. Okay, I got you.
Yeah, no, the horizon is thought to not have a fixed distance for about 200 years now. Your understanding that it's claimed to what he meant to be a location you can go to is incorrect. No one said you could go to it, but it had a fixed within the globe model. It has a fixed distance from an observer. It's not a moving position. It's not optical. It's geometric. But what can you do? There you go. That's what we're getting now. 2 years later, or 2.5 years later, or more after the Black Swan, almost 3 years actually, and we're dealing with people telling us that they've known for 200 years that the horizon is not geometric. Really, go back to 3 years ago. Would you have been telling us that? No. Did you know it even yourself? No. Did this guy know that then? No, he didn't. They're rubbish.
Any evidence of axial rotation of the Earth-based variety?
No evidence of axial rotation. If axial rotation was real, then aircraft pilots would have to, especially commercial pilots, would have to account for it daily, and they don't do that, as they would be flying to a destination that is moving underneath them.
How would they land?
Sorry, Neil?
How would these pilots land their planes?
Well, taking off would be tricky, but getting to your location, I mean, you would have to go in directions that would not be normal. For instance, when they fly from London Heathrow to Lagos, Nigeria, they fly straight north to south. And when they fly from Lagos, Nigeria to Heathrow, London, they fly straight south to north. But if the Earth was rotating east from west to east, right, they would have to fly and leave London, go out over Schiphol in the Netherlands, Schiphol Airport near Amsterdam, and head for the Middle East to meet up with in the hope to meet up with Lagos. They would have to take that route. So the route would have to be completely different, but it's not. So what direction does that flight go? It flies directly north to south. There's no deviation of a rotating out underneath it taken into account within that flight path.
So no evidence of axial rotation. Next.
Leave that for Nathan.
Sorry, what was the question?
I said there's
What's
no
next?
evidence of axial rotation. Next.
Any evidence of the distance to the sun?
What is the sun?
Yeah, but there you go. Distance to what? I mean, we're told it has an angular size, yet we've never seen its actual size. So how do you even know it has an angular size? You know, what is it? The only reason that it's claimed to be at a certain distance was so they could explain the shadows we see in reality working over a surface that's curved at the rate that would suit a radius of 3959 miles. That's the only reason that there is a claimed distance of 93 million miles to the sun, because they need those shadows to work. They need the sun to be the correct size, so they will get parallel light rays from it, but also the correct size so it will match what they're claiming to be an angular size. You know, the fact that there's an angular size to the sun is something that's not, that alone, even though it's so simple, people can't take it on board. That alone debunks the Earth's a globe. There's no such thing as angular size within the globe model. It doesn't exist. So no, there is no evidence of the distance to the sun. Next one, Nathan.
Any evidence of a self-perpetuating molten iron core at the centre of a presupposed spherical Earth?
Well, not that I'm aware of, because that would involve basically a reverse dynamo. And the way a dynamo on a bike worked for years was I think it was a magnetic field creates the electric charge. So it was a moving moving electric field created a magnetic. I can't remember exactly how the dynamo worked. I'm a bit out of touch with it. But I remember looking into both how the dynamo worked and how the claim of the globe's inner core works. and it's the opposite way to how a dynamo works. But the dynamo works that way because that's the way it has to work. In reality, it can't work in reverse. Dynamos can't work in reverse. But according to the globe Earth, it's a reverse dynamo at its center. So, but anyway, there is no evidence of it. Just said I'd throw that out there.
Any scientific evidence of gravity?
You serious?
Well, gravity. I mean, how many gravities do we have now? We have 3. We have specific gravity, which is just basically density, a density differential, or basically it's the baseline of relative density, basically, but a little not as precise. Then you have debunked what they call Newtonian gravitation, which is out of date, about 107 years. And now we have present day general relativity, which is in a fourth dimension, a mathematical fourth dimension that we can't ever experience. So, no, there is no evidence for
Don't forget, hold on.
gravity,
Don't forget
or
flat.
otherwise.
Don't forget the flat Earth gravity, Brian.
What's that, Neil?
The flat Earth gravity that explains gravity. Dielectric acceleration.
Well, but that's don't even bring that up. That's debunked. That's as dead as gravity is dead. That's not flat Earth gravity. That's just rubbish made up by people who don't do their due diligence when they're researching. That's what that is. People pumping out stuff they can't support. Load of rubbish. They're no more valid than the ballers claiming that gravity is a force, or someone claiming that gravity is only an apparent effect of the curvature of space-time. They're no more valid than any of those claims.
Well, he claims this person claims it explains gravity on Earth perfectly.
Why would you need to explain something or replace something that doesn't exist in the first place? Something would have to exist for you to replace it. I can't replace something that is in non-existence. How do you replace something that doesn't exist? You can't replace something that doesn't exist. So gravity would have to exist in the first place for someone to come up with a replacement for it.
Well, things fall down, go boom, boom. Things fall down.
No, they don't. Some things go down, some things go up, depending on the medium.
Any single viable hypothesis from any of the fields of astronomy, cosmology, or astrophysics?
Well, there was claims recently of a guy, a video that QE has been covering, where Anthony, Sleeping Warrior, was conversating with an astronomer and a civil engineer, and the astronomer claimed that he did a scientific experiment that adhered to scientific method by just looking through a telescope. And now he didn't define what scientific method was. I think he had his own version of scientific method, crazy and all that is. So that's the best they got. So no, Nathan, there is no valid scientific hypothesis possible from astronomy, cosmology, or astrophysics. There can't be. They only have observation.
Any evidence that you can acquire an elevation angle measurement from a curved baseline?
No.
I've never seen it.
Go on, one deck.
I was just laughing.
I was going to say something.
I was just laughing at the question, basically, because it's impossible. It's an impossible feat. You can't get an elevation angle from a curved surface. It's impossible. It's not.
I got a question. How would you?
Couldn't even ask the question. Yeah.
Wouldn't. It's two straight lines meeting at a vertex. Not one bent one line and one straight line.
Well, then how would you get that on a sphere?
Well, you can use an imaginary tangent line that doesn't exist. That's how they do it, I think.
Well, if the adjacent of your angle or right angle triangle is curved, then it's not an angle or right angle triangle. There's no way around that. I don't know why. Sorry.
Are we live again?
Yes.
I don't know. I don't know how anyone would expect to get around that. You know, they're basically claiming, if you go by celestial navigation, what these people are claiming when they're claiming to use a curved surface is they're claiming that radius lines can be curved. That is their claim. They don't even know it half the time when they're making it. Some of them do. Ruhiff absolutely knows he's making that claim, and he even admitted it. But some of them don't even realize. So they're claiming radius lines are curved and can be. That's literally what they're claiming.
But Brian, they also claim that they're not actually using the surface of the Earth when they're out at sea, and they're using the visible horizon for the elevation angle. They're not actually using the surface of Earth. They're using an imaginary tangent line. They're not actually using a curve. They're using an imaginary line now.
Well, what they do, one deck, is they wanted to focus on the dip correction and claim that is a dip to a 7/6 or horizon, and then ignore height of void correction. Now, there's no evidence that what they're talking with, that the horizon they're looking at has anything to do with a globe out or anything to do with a 7/6 or standard terrestrial refraction of a globe out. There's no evidence of any of that. It's just a random baseless assertion that they throw out there based on the dip from the observer's eye line standing on the deck of a boat down to wherever the horizon would be, which would be the water level underneath the boat. Then they completely ignore and refuse to define height of void correction and just claim globe. But not realizing that then they're actually claiming the next step is to actually their next step after that is claiming that radius lines are curved. They don't even realize they're claiming it, most of them. And those who do, like Ruhiff, claim it anyway, because they just claim anything. Because that's what Ruhiff does. Do you know what I mean? And MacDown and Proto, they all just claim a curved radius, because that's what them people do. So it's sad, but that's what they do. And just so the audience knows, if you were to try and use a globe Earth's 7/6 or horizon, then you could not use the conversion rate of 1.1508 between nautical and statute miles, because 69 statute miles per degree will not work under those circumstances, because you now have a radius of a globe of 4,618.83 statute miles. So now every 1 degree of measurement will be over 80, just over 80 statute miles. So that instantly debunks all their claims, because they've increased the size of the longitude line.
Any evidence of the R value, Earth radius?
No evidence of a globe Earth's radius value. They back-engineered their actual radius value, not measurement, from flat Earth elevation angles to Polaris. There is no other way to do it.
Any evidence you can have gas pressure without a container?
Absolutely not. There is zero evidence that you can have gas pressure without a container. The whole point of pressure is that the gas is pressing on something. To have pressure, to create pressure in the first place, you need to have something to press upon. To create a gradient of pressure, you need temperature. A gradient of temperature to create the gradient of pressure, because temperature either adds or subtracts kinetic energy as it's described from the gas. So when you add kinetic energy, which is heat, the gas expands more and moves out more. That's how it's described. When you subtract kinetic energy, which is cold, the gas then contracts more and moves about less. So to create a gas pressure gradient, you first need a container to create the gas pressure. Then you need a temperature gradient to create the gas pressure gradient.
What does it matter? Pressure is not a force anyway.
Oh yes, it is.
The force over area.
No, it is a force. When you press your hand onto the table, you're pressing force over area. That is a force. You're adding force down onto the table with your hand. So it doesn't matter if it's gas, if it's liquid, if it's your hand. It doesn't matter. It's force. It's still force. And it might be force over area with your hand the same way as it is with gas in the inside of a balloon. It's still force. Pressure is force.
I agree. Some people don't.
There would be people who are astronomers and civil engineers who don't want to admit that Anthony had a force, who didn't want to admit Anthony had a force, but they were stupid enough to say that pressure is not a force, but it's a force over area out of desperation.
Well, the egg stood right there. The egg did not continue to rise and go flying into the air.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yes, sir. Why didn't it come up in the water, levitate, and then shoot off into outer space?
That is what he was asking.
I tried to warn you guys, but you just weren't getting it. Right? Seemed benign. His query was sort of benign in the beginning, but he had a mission.
Hello, John and John.
You...
I was hoping that the other John, not you, QE, could ask his question, as I was jetting up to ask his question on his behalf. It's the last question.
Sorry, I just...
That's okay.
Sorry, I just stumbled in.
No, not at all. You there, other John? Refracted curvature.
All right.
Sorry, I just stumbled in too. Give me a minute. I'll be right back.
Then how do you have a question? If you just stumbled in, then how do you know he has a question?
He has a question.
Question is, if the Earth is a sphere, why would it be necessary to apply a transformative equation if it's already spherical?
We already heard that question a long time ago. You know the answer to that.
What's the answer?
Well, it had to do something with Santiago.
If someone said Santiago wasn't to be touched, is that's the quote?
If you were given orders that Santiago wasn't to be touched, that's the answer to that question.
Yeah, it makes no sense. If the world's spherical, you're not going to need to apply maths to transform it into something spherical. It's already spherical. Makes no sense.
Yes. Then why was it necessary to transfer Santiago off the base?
Because Earth is flat.
Did you order the globe Earth?
Oh, that numpty's still in my chat saying that pressure is not a force, by the way. Just want to let you know.
It's not. It's force over area. Come on.
I'm sorry, I can't get by it.
That shows the level of... Sorry.
Yeah, Nathan, you're going to want to watch the next one, since I know you haven't watched the last two. You're going to have to watch the next one. Your favorite subject's coming up.
Well, I'd have to ask that dude a question. Can you have a pressure without an area?
What's it going to press
Wait,
on?
you mean without volume? That's going to be difficult.
Well, yeah, that goes to the housekeeping question, doesn't it?
The one I was hoping you would ask.
Can you have gas pressure without a container?
Oh, no. Yeah, the different question. Right, Brian, I've got this presented.
Yeah, this will be a short presentation based on a video I made last night. Something just hit me. I knew it was something bothering me about the whole 7/6R thing that I just wasn't paying attention to. And it just hit me what it was. It's like so simple. Let's just say this is an observer here. This blue here, if you can see it, I'll just this blue dot here. Let me just go out a bit. Sorry. And this red dot here is what they're looking at, and this is the curve here of the globe Earth, because this whole thing here was based on 7/6R and how it destroys them, right? So this is the person, the observer, looking at the location here. So blue is the observer, red is the location. And the distance between the two, well, it doesn't matter if it's the arc distance or a straight line distance. I just put a distance between them. It was 1295. Doesn't matter what it is, what unit it is. It's just as 1295, right? So now we know that every single observation that has ever been presented to us by our opposition has had to have had at least 7/6R added to it. So they've never been able to show us an observation that matched the globe Earth, where the horizon and locations match where it would be on a globe with a radius of 3959 miles. They've always had to add at least 7/6R. Now, 7/6R, just so the audience is well aware, is not connected to light, heat, air density, Snell's law, any of that. It is not light refraction. 7/6R, also known as standard or terrestrial refraction, is not the refraction of light. It is a physical change in the size of a globe Earth, because what they want to do is they want to flatten out mathematically their globe, so it will somewhat match the observations we see in reality. So that is why they've gotten to get as far as they've gotten to as far as claiming ridiculous things like Ruhif claimed, which was infinite over 6R, which means it's an admission that they're going to make their globe as big as it needs to be at any time they need to make it that big. Right? It has nothing to do with light, nothing to do with refraction, nothing to do with any of that, absolutely nothing to do with Snell's law. It's purely a physical change in the size of their globe, right? So if this green curved arc here, that's based on a radius of 3959 miles. So when we change the radius to match 7/6R, right, then the radius becomes 4,618.83 statute miles for the globe. And when you do that, the distance between the observer and the location they're looking at is actually 1518 as opposed to 1295. Now, what do I mean by this? What I mean by this is this: they always try and flatten out their globe, make their globe as big as possible to make it look flat, right, for the observer. But then they want to keep the location they're looking at the same distance from the observer. But if you take a balloon and half blow it up, and you put get a marker and put two little dots on it, and then you blow it up further, will the distance between those dots increase? Yes, it will. But they always try to keep what they're looking at at the same distance from the observer while increasing the surface of their globe size, right? So they don't want the location they're looking at to be all the way back here, further away from the observer when they increase the circumference of their globe, right? They want to keep the location the same distance from the observer, but have a more flattened area between the two, because they know they have to keep on trying to flatten everything, because we don't want to observe curve because it doesn't exist. Earth is flat. So this is what they do. So in reality, every single observation they ever brought us, they should have been creating a greater distance between the observer and the location they were looking at, but they never were. So let's just double the radius. So let's just say we take a radius and we just double the globe Earth's radius. Now, 7/6R is nothing. They've probably always had to add way more than that, right? Like 7/6R, as they call it as a standard, is not. I don't think they've ever been able to add that, just 7/6R, to an observation. They've always had to add a lot more. So let's just double. If we doubled the globe's radius, right? So let's just say they have to use a claim that they're using refraction, and it's doubling the size of. It's not refraction. It's just what they call refraction. It's doubling the size of their globe. Then the distance between the observer and the location they're looking at doubles. So it's 2591 as opposed to 1295. But they will still try and keep the location that they're looking at the same distance from the observer. So they'll want the location to be around here somewhere. I can't move this for some reason, the subphotometer. They'll want the location to be around here somewhere, right, while making their globe bigger. In reality, what would happen if that was a possibility, which absolutely is, it's crazy, it's totally impossible. But if they hypothetically could do this, then this red dot here would be the distance between the observer and the location they're trying to view, because they're making their globe bigger. So that means the distance between the observer and the location they're viewing has to be greater. There is no way around it. It's a geometric fact. So that leads us on to this, right? I'm just going to stop presenting this and reshare. But I'm just going to share a slightly different window. Now, right, so that leads us to this, right? The black swan, right? Now, the thing about it is this: we see those platforms here in front of us. Now we know that the reason that the horizon is behind them is because the Earth is not a globe. We know that's because the horizon is not a geometric location. It has never been a geometric location. We were only ever given the impression that it was, right? So we know for definite that regardless of where that horizon is, that those platforms will always be 6.2 miles from the shore and 9.4 miles from the shore. So it doesn't matter where the horizon is, those platforms will never change in their distance from the observer. Never. So their claims, even though they killed themselves when they said refraction as a way of explaining the black swan, right? They killed themselves because that means they're claiming it's not geometric. Once you claim refraction, you're claiming it's not geometric, right? You're ending your argument. But worse than that is that the amount of refraction they need, they were claiming what they thought was refraction, which is not refraction. It's actually a physical change in the size of their globe, right? That would, if the horizon is 10 miles away, let's just say, from an observer who's got a 1 foot observer height, I think the circumference is the radius, is it 250,000 miles of a radius you need to have, or is that the circumference of the globe would have, something crazy like that? It's greater than the heliocentric distance between the globe Earth and their heliocentric moon. So if this was 7/6R, for this to be 7/6R, both those platforms would have to be way beyond that horizon, because that would be a physical change in the size of their globe. 7/6R absolutely annihilates them. Not that we needed it, but you can never have enough guns. So that's the presentation. That's the end of that. I hope you all understood. I'm sure you did.
Yeah, 10 miles, it's 264,000 miles.
Would that be the radius?
Yeah.
Wow. 264,000 miles. So those platforms, according to their 7/6R claims, whatever, like that would make the radius 264,000 miles. Then those platforms could never be 6.2 and 9.4 miles from the observer. They would have to be well beyond the horizon.
Right. That was just 264,000 miles was the horizon at 10 miles radius or at 10 miles away. Everyone, we all know now, we can't confirm it, that it's much further in this photo than 10 miles away.
Yeah,
exactly. You're starting to get into you're starting to get way far beyond 264,000 miles.
Yeah, and it goes into absurdity, doesn't it? Like, I mean, 264,000 miles of a change from 3,959 to 264,000. That is the change they have to make of the radius of their globe to put the horizon where it is in the black swan photograph. And that would mean that the platforms could not be in that location because you've increased the size of the surface of your globe, taking the exact points that the exact points on the Earth that these platforms are at, and stretching them out further and sending them way back behind whatever distance that horizon is at. So it's total nonsense. I just said I'd point that out. Thank you.
Well, I covered all the housekeeping questions. It's been an absolutely disastrous day, this has for me. I was so enthusiastic about everything working. But at least we're live.
I think I might have jinxed you.
No, I don't think so. It's just one of those. Everything worked last week. I'm absolutely baffled. I can't figure out what would possibly make it change so radically to working perfectly, being tested, recording and live streaming to members. Not only recording and streaming to members, streaming a game, something that's far more difficult to encode. Yeah, all I've got is a screen capture of this hangout, and the integrated graphics that I use to encode the stream has just crapped the bed completely. I don't get it. It makes absolutely no sense. But there we go. Such is life.
If we've, can I? Sorry, I just wanted to correct someone who was out in chat.
Yeah.
Just for Weisskopf saying no, they still have an excuse for it. They claim refraction qualities are making light bend around the Earth's curve due to gravity curving your optics. No, that's incorrect. That's only made up nonsense. 7/6R has nothing got to do with the bending of light. Nothing to do with light whatsoever. It's a physical change in the size of their globe. What they're trying to do there is hijack actual refraction, make up nonsense, and add in gravity, something that has absolutely nothing to do with light within their claims, and has absolutely nothing to do with reality. Doesn't exist. They're just making stuff up. So don't listen to any of that. There is no light refraction possible on the globe. Sorry,
I'll go into it in the after show. I mean, it's detailed, but I'd probably agree with Weisskopf. I'd kind of use a bit of what you've done and a little bit of bending of light. But we have to get the graphs out again.
What you have?
To me, what they're doing there when they build that model is ray tracing with a 7/6R bending light. And that's the issue. It's that rate of change of the light and the discrepancy with the rate of change, because it's 7/6R to 6/6. It's that rate of change, which is the first excuse for it has the effect of flattening out in terms of you can see further than you should be able to do on a ball because the light's bending. I would still view it like that. So it'd be fun to go over it in a bit, Bri, because I would take some of your top larger R values and then move them back into that physical geometry to calculate it. So
yeah, but there's two issues, Adam. One is that 7/6R has nothing to do with light refraction. It's purely a change in the size of their globe. But how
I know
could
you
the
said
platform
that and demonstrated it. I'm saying I disagree.
Yeah.
I think the 7/6R is a ray tracing from that original point, which is why, as you were saying, when you take that arc length, it wants to be the same distance, which is why you have to calculate and then move it back down. We'll go for it in the after show. Get the pictures out, and I'll show you what I mean, how I understand it. But I'd probably agree with, was it Weisskopf?
Yeah,
Adam.
well, just wanted to throw in, John, before you say something. If there's a physical change in the size of the globe because there's a physical change in the radius, that means there has to be a distance change between an observer and the location you're observing. It's like a balloon with 2 points on it. You blow it bigger, those 2 points get further apart. So there's no way the horizon.
I agree, but that's the point of disagreement, I'd say. So what doesn't change is the physical obstruction. that remains the same. You calculate the differential between the light ray path of 7/6R against that 6/6R to create a reduced obstruction that would have been there a lot bigger with the 6/6R with just straight rays. So that's the purpose of it, because it's not bending quite sufficiently still, so it's just to reduce the amount of the obstruction.
Well,
I'd
I
absolutely
just want to
disagree with
know.
you.
I know. But if you
Well,
get the graphs out in the after show, I'll show you what I mean. I'm not shouting. you
There's
wrong,
no
I'm
after
saying I
show.
don't understand
There
it
is
like
no
that.
after show. Once
There
this
is
live,
Say,
I had to stop the
Oh.
recording because my integrated GPU couldn't cope with streaming and recording, which it could last week with no settings changes. So I don't know why, but no, there's no after show, just this live show, which I can't
Okay,
wait to be
4 more
over. If
hours
I'm
then.
honest.
Well,
Yeah.
4 more hours.
if that's the case, could I maybe tweak one of the housekeeping questions and then attempt it?
Yeah.
So instead of distance to the sun, could you ask me distance to the moon?
Any evidence the distance to the moon?
Oh, yes. Good question, Nathan. I spotted this from Founded Earth Brothers. They used to be Flat Earth Brothers, and now the Founded Earth Brothers. Little bit of analysis of the Lucy supposed satellite. They've managed to take a shot, and I'll only use stills, Nathan, so don't worry. They've managed to take a shot from the Lucy satellite of Earth over here on the right and the moon on the left. What they do point out is that the moon, the distance between the Earth and the moon should be some 30 Earth radiuses. How many Earths could fit between? 30 Earths, look, would fit between. So they decide, well, that would seem simple. Let's put the space in. 15, spit Sesame Street, 16 and a half. So according to the Lucy satellite, it's a reduced distance between the two. It does make some excuses. There could be perspective issues, but this does appear to be a claim.
How did they calculate that?
That's the picture. What it does point out, which I find very interesting, is look, we've got the moon and the Earth illuminated, but there's not one star in the sky. Even if you mess about with the contrast, you get nothing in back illumination. It's just a black background. But there you go. It's as good as it gets.
Well, the moon is also 1/3 the size of the Earth. I don't think you can keep that ratio with that picture either. So the moon's either further away in the background, or, well, I mean, it's not a very good CGI image, is it?
I think that was the point they were making. Well, ropey. If you're going to go to the effort of faking something, at least, shouldn't be debunked within minutes, should it? With obvious stuff.
Oh, very good. Thank you for sharing that. I'm sure someone will come back to us and say, no, because of the three-dimensionality of the claim picture, it works like this.
Well,
you need to reduce the size of the Earths as they go into the distance, and as they reduce, like, this picture is claimed to be taken from a sky vacuum. It's a violation of entropy law. We'd all be dead if they were capable of taking this picture. It's not a picture. Earth's not a sphere.
I was going to ask
analyzed
Adam
with
something.
Photoshop,
Has to be.
but has it been analyzed with Photoshop for editing and all that?
Adam just did that literally on the screen. I'm doing other things
What?
now. No, nobody's ever done that.
No, he did say, he said, look, if you mess about with the levels, Arwen, you can't get even one pixel of light in the background of this. So there's this moon and the Earth illuminated, but there's nothing else in the night sky that you
No
can see at
stars.
all. No,
They
none.
blacked it all out.
Wow. Why would you do that?
Or probably to hide the Photoshop editing stains.
Right. They spilled some coffee on it and they had to cover up the stars. Hey, Adam, I was going to ask you about the math you were getting ready to do. Are you going to do that below surface level?
You mean the ray tracing on a ball?
Yes. Yes. Are you going to do the 7/6R ray tracing below surface level?
I suppose. Conceptually, there's no other way.
That'll be good stuff. Good stuff.
Right, I think that's going to be my cue to end this rather disastrous show. So, with that, I'm going to say, first and foremost, a huge, massive, enormous thank you to all of you who stuck with us live, even though there's loads of technical issues. And, of course, a massive thank you to today's Gilded and G+ panels for making today's live show possible and holding it together while I was completely distracted. Another massive thank you to all of you who smashed the super chat, including Mike808, who said, hyena. Yes, indeed, Mike. And for liking, commenting, sharing, subscribing, joining us on Nathan Oakley, 1980 channel member, and all that good stuff. I've been Nathan Oakley, and I will see you all in the next video.
What a lovely day!